Badwi as Andy Sterling's in Jamaica, along with Maggie Wolfendale this weekend. Looking forward to all their coverage coming up as we will brave the colder temperatures on Cigar Mile Eve.
You will brave them.
Yes,
will be
I will
inside.
be out there in
You'll
all
be the
my
bravest
layers.
of us all. Yes.
Yeah. But you're looking very festive.
Thank you. It's almost
love it.
holiday season. Yeah.
Yeah.
Gotta dress up.
I go into the all black mode this time of year. But we've got an 8-race card to talk about coming up as we'll remind everybody you can play along with Naira Bets. Sign up, use promo code BONUS200 over at nairabets.com or download the app today for your $200 deposit match right after your first deposit. Saturday contests coming up as well. $300 buy-in, cash and seat prizes, registration accepted up to post time. Check out nairabets.com/contests. 10% win bonus taking place at Aqueduct. Hit a win bet at Aqueduct and get a 10% win bonus. Be sure to opt in over at Naira Bets. And then if you're playing Tampa will be on the show today as well. You can hit a 10% exacta bonus on Tampa Bay Downs and get a 10% bonus opt-in over there as well. And speaking of the show, America's Day at the Races featuring Aqueduct in Tampa, 12:30 to 4:30 today on FS2. We'll take a look at this card, but first, Sarah, which stake are you most excited about tomorrow?
The Remsen. I mean, that full field.
Such a good field.
And the morning line, I think, is so indicative of how open the race really is. And you have a lot of horses that, of course, it's that time of year. They're so unproven, but really many coming off of maiden wins or even maiden disqualifications that I think are very interesting.
Yeah, really looking forward to that one. I'm with you. Big field of 12 two-year-olds going a mile and an eighth right before the Cigar Mile tomorrow. But as far as today's card, we'll dive right into it. Maiden 20 to kick things off, a mile. And to the outside, it's Autumn's Turn. That's currently the early favorite. We'll take a look at the race where they finish second and third respectively with Karis Chianti back on November 9th. What were your thoughts on this race?
I didn't love anybody in here.
Yeah,
and
I think that's fair.
I think that for me, parsing between the two of them, I thought that Karis Chianti would be a little bit more forwardly placed, especially with the rail draw, more so than Autumn's Turn, even though Autumn's Turn did finish ahead of her last time that they met up. I just couldn't do it with a horse who's 0 for 25 coming into this spot at what was going to be, I thought, a similar enough price and a horse that might not have that same forward position. So do I think there's that much separating these two? Not necessarily, but I went with a horse who's at least had less opportunities and especially going a route of ground.
Yeah, I was in exactly the same boat as you. It's really hard to feel strongly in this field, but Karis Chianti, the price plus I thought a tactical advantage despite being caught last time. She was off of a little bit of a layoff as well, and at least she's only had one start at the mile. Race 2, claiming race for $40,000. This one sprinting, going 6 furlongs. Very few scratches on today's card. Unfortunately, this was a race that was really impacted by it, in particular with Barksdale coming out. I actually elevated Big Hat Willie, thinking that this was a horse with Manny Franco, as we can go back to his race 2 back at Delaware when he won. It was forwardly placed this day, and I think we're going to see him get back to that running style. He faced an absolute war of a field last time.
Agree completely, and I actually had a similar line of thinking, but just went in a different direction, thinking that the horse that could benefit from the scratch of Barksdale and being forward in here might be Trust Issues, who's been a little bit more aggressive with Christopher Elliott, though not last time out, but that was going the 7 furlongs against some tougher horses. It'll be interesting to see who really wants to be forwardly placed and what Rob Atris's instructions are for both of these horses.
He holds a very strong hand in this race now.
I would say it's probably one of these two.
Yeah.
And that you would be looking at some decent payouts in that early pick 5, were that not to be the case.
Right, for sure. I liked Barksdale coming into this race, so race really changing with that scratch. I think those are kind of the big two. You do have Social Hour. I feel that he's worth a mention, Sarah, because he won last time out for $30,000, and he is stepping up off the claim. But he is off the claim for Ilkay Kintermasi, and he's been in good form recently.
He has. I just think that he's running into some horses that are a little bit better than him. But at the same time, you never know when somebody's not going to run their race. And if you want an alternative in here, I think you could do worse than horses like him, as well as Metalhead, who at least is on that win streak. We know that he likes to win.
Coming in from Pennsylvania, the two Rabatros runners dropping in class, though, seem to hold a very strong hand in race 2. Things get a little bit more interesting in the third New York bred maiden special weight for 2-year-olds going a mile. And we go in some different ways in here, both of us going to horses that are really trying to turn things around. What did you like about Royal Riddle?
Yeah, I think both of us just having a little bit of an idea against the horses that are going to be the most logical types in here towards the inside, 4th and 1 and Max Money. But with Royal Riddle, the blinkers are coming off today, and Joe Sharp switching the blinkers off on dirt with maidens. He is 7 for 34 over the past 5 years, 59% in the money, $1.96 ROI. On dirt with 2-year-olds only doing that, he is only 1 for 9, but it is a positive ROI in a scheduled dirt race, as that horse was 9 to 1. I don't really know what happened last time out where he was
He's just
forwardly
so
placed.
disappointing.
I will
know.
say that outside of the winner of that race, though, talk to me, Jimmy, the other horses that ended up finishing within your trifecta were coming off of the pace a little bit more. It was a contentious pace. I don't think it was a pace that completely collapsed, evidenced by your winner in there. But I will say that this horse was at least out widest of what was a lineup of 4 of them early on. Maybe there's a little bit less to deal with in here. Maybe they want him to be a little bit more relaxed with those blinkers coming off in this spot, and I don't think he gets the lead anyway. We'll see. He needs to improve, but I will say his race 2 back, the second place finisher, did improve out of that race from a 63 to a 67 buyer. So I have some questions about the last effort, but I thought that he was at least a little bit intriguing at what would be a better price.
Yeah, and he will be a price to see if it can turn things around. I'm going with a horse that's going turf to dirt in Snickery, which typically I don't lean towards horses like this, but this one has a lot of pedigree to suggest that he should actually handle the dirt. In fact, it's more of a dirt pedigree. The dam won both sprinting and going long on dirt. She was 0 for 1 on turf. The second dam was the stakes winner, running 90 to 100 buyer speed figures on the main track. And then this one, half to stakes winner, let me make this call, and all the siblings more dirt horses. So maybe it was a bad sign that he started out on the grass. But I remember my notes from his first race where I was in the paddock and he just was screaming. He was so green. He was acting terribly. And then he was gelded before his last race. So on top of now having experience and improving going long, albeit on the turf, I think that the second time gelding and running on a surface that he's actually bred for, I thought he was a little bit intriguing and will be a price with Ricardo Santana. Showed speed on turf last time, so I'm hoping he's aggressive on the main track.
And I think that out of all trainers, you could say that Mark Casse is not afraid to mix things up with surfaces more so than others. So maybe, yes, a little bit of a negative, but I would take it less so with this particular trainer.
We've been kind of skirting around the main horses in here, the ones coming out of the Sleepy Hollow. We'll go back and watch that race. We Max Money and 4th and 1. 4th and 1 was forward in there. Max Money did receive a ride from the equine ambulance after the race, after the wire. It was a big price that day. Obviously, everything was okay as he comes back relatively quickly, which is great to see. But he was a really big price finishing second that day. And I had questions as to how good is he really?
And didn't 4th and 1 do all the dirty work in this race?
Yeah.
He was the one that was taking all the pressure from the other horses that were forward. He put those 2 away. The winner was much the best. It was 3 to 5 to win this race. Ended up having to switch out after saving ground and just clearly and benefited from an off the pace kind of journey. And I thought that that was sort of the case with a horse like Max Money as well, where I don't know that he necessarily ran a better race than 4th and 1. And if they were similar prices, I would rather go with 4th and 1.
Me too. That's why I put 4th and 1 in second. But
Yeah,
I think you have to respect both of those horses coming out of that Sleepy Hollow. And then quickly the 521 Red. This one does have some pedigree, and being bitonalist should appreciate going longer. A little bit interesting getting to the main track.
Definitely. I think if you get outside of those 2 horses that are more of your favorites towards the inside, and I messed up, guys, my picks should be 3, 2, 1, 5. But I will say that there is a little bit of a case to be made for what are relative unknowns towards the outside.
We'll see who handles the main track and who steps forward in that main special weight. Mile and an eighth on the main track for race 4, $16,000 claiming race. We're in different directions here again. Give me the pitch for Unbridled Bomber.
Well, I think the pitch is, again, I don't know about ministerial. And that seems to be your way of thinking in here as well, where I think it's reasonable to wonder if Unbridled Bomber can really run anymore. But I will say he was eased in that last start, and then he had that little bit of time off, and it just seems as though that was not his day. So I don't want to hold that major regression last time against him too much. And if you don't have to go back that far to really see that he's been facing horses that are just of good quality. He's been a consistent type. I think he's a horse that really needs Lasix when he hasn't shown up in some of those stakes races. I can sort of chalk it up to that being the case. I have no problems with him at the mile and an eighth distance. And even going out of that race where he was sixth behind Strategic Focus and Malarchuk, I thought that that has been a very productive race moving forwards as well. So is he one that needs some pace? Yes, but I thought that there could be a couple of horses that wanted to be forward in here, Best Bet being one of them, and even Ministerial.
Um, yeah, I agree. I think the big question here is, do you go with Ministerial or do you go against him? We both go against him, putting him in second. He's taking such a big drop in class. I was going to show his race 3 back, but it just felt like, I mean, you're going back a year when you pull that replay. And then he comes back and he finished his second December of last year on a very wet track. And then last time out at Keeneland, he was up close. He was keen. A long shot pace setter wired the field in there, and he just really didn't run well. He's only run once in 2025, and now he's in for 16,000. He's got Flavien Prat, so he's going to take money. Just feels like this is the kind of horse that you kind of have to try and play against.
And even if you look at his last win against claiming 20,000 in Saratoga, you could make the argument that this field is at least similar.
Yeah.
If not with a couple of other horses that are a bit more intriguing that are dropping in class. So I just couldn't put on top. These kinds of horses end up usually beating me in spots like this, but I didn't like that it's been a minute since we've seen him get the victory and that his last win was over what I assess to be either equal or lesser company.
I landed on Bob John Ray. I know that he's another horse that could be forwardly placed, but he's probably the one that I just really trust as far as getting the distance. And I think that if you cross out the turf try 2 starts back, I mean, his last 3 dirt races have all been wins. I know 2 of them in off the turf races, but I think he's been spotted smartly. And he's a horse that I've always liked and preferred going the 2 turns, and it feels like recently he has been actually back in good form with Rob Atras. He at a time was running some decent races, one with Chad Brown, and then recently has struggled a little bit. So I felt like he was a horse that was going in the right direction, and I know that he was able to get forward last time, but he was incredibly game to get the win that day. And I know it's technically stepping up, but I preferred taking a horse that was at least in good form right now, and you didn't have to trust if he could run back to some of his better races.
You don't have those questions
Yeah.
with him. You know that he's coming in with some grittiness, with that will to win, with the forward position as well. So I completely see the argument. I just thought that there were others that could be a little bit more interesting at bigger prices, but they are question marks for a reason.
Yeah, there's a class question for sure. Quickly on Best Bet to the outside. This horse finished 3rd last time out, but we know he's got one way of going.
Exactly. And that one way of going hasn't led to a victory in the last 2 starts, though I think that he was in against some decent company for the level at both of those races. I just wonder if he doesn't get things his own way in here, and if anybody tries to go with him, maybe things don't ultimately work out. And I thought he'd be a little bit too short of a price with some interesting others.
All right, race 5, New York Red Maiden claiming 30,000 going a mile. I thought that this was a tricky race. I think like you, I just did not want to lean on Rose Lisa, who's 4 to 5 on the
Seems like
morning
such a
line. And I
cop-out.
get it. She's taking the drop, and she's got Flavien Prat. She's going to be a short price. But she's never run on the dirt. And to be honest, she hasn't run that great on turf.
No, and look, this is one of those horses where when you look around at the rest of the field, I completely understand why this horse ends up being your morning line favorite, and especially that short of a price as well, because I think David Aragona, our morning line maker, has been paying clear attention to how Flavien Prat has been bet, especially as of late. There's just not a lot going on outside of this horse, but I didn't want to take this one on top. I opted for a horse who maybe can't run at all, but at least you can always forgive a debut. I think that this horse was never really in contention whatsoever in that second start and was just always wide that day. I can throw out the turf race where I will say at least the horse did show some speed going a little bit further against Maiden Special Weight State Bred Company before fading. And then I just thought that this horse was a little bit wide in that off the turf race last time out over a muddy sealed surface. I like the stretch back out in distance for Banco de Sicilia, but there's a lot of ways to go in here with not much confidence in anybody.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's a bit tricky. As far as Banco de Sicilia, physically, I wouldn't mind her stretching out in distance, and she does have pedigree to say that she'd go longer. She is getting a drop in class, but she's so tough mentally. You might remember this is the horse that first time out she dropped Lane Leslie on the track, and he was really frustrated by the situation, which you can understand. And then, I mean, she nearly dropped Dylan Davis in her next start. She was just really, really tough in some previous races. And so I am curious to see what she's going to do now making start number 5. But I think mentally that's going to be the biggest thing for her to try and conserve a little bit of that energy. I took a bit of a wacky pick in here. The 2 Burbis, honey, I guess. She takes a drop in class, but I know she debuted at Finger Lakes. I just thought she had such a not enjoyable trip. She wasn't the quickest out early. Several horses sent, and then it seemed like she was running and her rider was taking her stops and starts the whole time. There was no even sort of run or momentum in there. And she actually did run on a little bit, and it just seemed to me like she was never given a chance to get into a rhythm. She looked, at least watching the replay, like a horse that would actually do well with stretching out, and I felt the drop was kind of a lateral move as to where she might belong here at Naira.
Timeform Yes does have this horse in front early.
Interesting. All right. Well, I think with Jamie Rodriguez, we know he's going to be more aggressive than the ride she got last time.
Yes. Yeah, I agree with that completely.
That's the first 5. We'll take a quick time out and come back with the late pick 3 after this.
You bet with Naira Bets. Bet any track, anywhere, anytime. Download the Naira Bets app to play today and get a $200 deposit bonus. Watch live horse racing. Get expert picks. Boost your bankroll with weekly promotions and hone your handicapping skills with exclusive tips and tutorials. Download the Naira Bets app now. Sign up now to claim your $200 deposit match bonus. You bet with Naira Bets.
Talking Horses continues. Acacia and Sarah, race 6 coming up next. Non-winners of 3 in life, going 6 furlongs, 17,500. This is a race I thought was a little bit tricky. It's kind of like a ministerial 2.0 situation with Airborne Elite, because you have the big drop in classes. We'll go back to the replay for him from June, his last win, but big drop in class for a horse that Linda Rice claimed for 40.
And these are the kind of horses that if this one was dropping like this for anyone but Linda Rice, I probably would have the horse a little bit further down. I've learned over time my lesson leaving horses like this out and eyeing that drop in class, because when Linda spots a horse, it's usually for a reason, and they end up being fairly successful at whatever level she puts them at. So she clearly feels that this is the level where this horse can be competitive coming up today. I don't want this horse to end up beating me, but I just couldn't quite get there with going all in on this one, though I will say I trust a little bit more than Ministerial.
Yeah, I agree with that. I could certainly see that. And it's obviously far less of a layoff. This one last ran mid-August against a good field in Saratoga. He has such a funny way of going, and you could even see it in that replay. Like, he runs with his tail straight out, and I thought it was a bit of a negative sign at first, but it just seems that that's how he runs. So Airborne Elite is getting back in distance. His last win that we just took a look at did come sprinting. You go, though, to the number 2, Ace It. Obviously, you have to put a line through that last race. And before that, he was just running against much better.
Right. That's my thinking with him. A horse who it's been a while since we've seen him have any relative success. But if you go all the way back to 2024, September 11th at Horseshoe Indy, I thought that this horse actually showed a little bit of life, having some forward position in that spot. It seems as though he was one that was that sort of precocious 2-year-old that then got good towards the summer, and then they tried the turf and everything sort of went downhill from there, and he was off for quite some time last time out. I think that it's promising, at least, that they do keep him at the level that they originally came back at for a horse who is now taking those blinkers off. He had them on last time, stumbling out of the gate. This is just a group of horses that it seems like he might belong in now, maybe one that just didn't take that step forward necessarily from 2 to 3, and I just wanted an alternative.
Yeah, I get it. I think he makes a lot of sense. It's his lowest race that he will have a chance to run at in quite some time. I'm going back one more time to Panic Artist.
Is this a pet?
One more time. This horse started off in such good form, second and then 2 wins early on. I know out of town, but then I think kind of thrown into some deep waters. An allowance race where he was disappointing, and then you go into the Penn Mile on the turf, and it just, I think, had some really dirtied up form coming into that last race, and I liked him. He did not run well that day, though he was kind of chasing. At least he was 3 wide, and then he was lugging in a little bit when fading. He takes an additional drop in class, and so I said I have to give him one more chance. Second time off the bit of that layoff, another drop in class. I felt that if I liked him a little bit last time, now for this lower level, had to give him one more chance, and he's going to be a price in here.
Right. You got a price last time. You'll still get a price this time, and I think that that's worth going with a horse who, if you had some feelings about giving him another opportunity, I didn't quite get there with him, but I think this race is wide open once you get outside of Airborne Elite. A horse that we both have later on in the picks in 4th, Captain Jack Sparrow. I just wonder if that 79 buyer victory is a little bit of an outlier.
I think it is too. We have that replay. We can show it quickly, but he wins pretty easily that day, Captain Jack Sparrow, and that was his last race with Mike Maker. He was claimed. To be fair, he's been running against much tougher since he's been in the Noda barn, so he's going back down to the level at which he was claimed for this non-winners of 3 condition, but I agree, that one race kind of sticks out like a sore thumb.
And at similar prices, I think that looking at him as well as the horse that you have on top, it makes more sense to go with the horse who does not finish that far behind him from that last race where they were both facing each other on the 14th of November.
That's race 6. So we'll turn the page on to the 7th, the mile for this allowance, 3-year-olds and upward in race number 7 here. And this is, I think, a race that does kind of revolve around systemic change. Who's first off the claim for Mike Maker. He's been in pretty good form, but he is stepping up in class. And with Flavien Prat, he's just going to be a short price.
Exactly. And I just didn't think that he was that much of a standout relative to the rest of this group. And I know that he's one that he should get a decent trip towards the inside with a couple of other horses that want more forward position than him. I couldn't leave this horse out completely. Clearly, I have him second. But I just wonder how good this horse really is. And I feel like he's always kind of a shorter price in general, especially, I mean, last time he was a very short price and he was supposed to be, and he got the win in that spot easily. But I don't know. I just thought that there were some other interesting horses.
You're going to go with Refua. So we'll take a look at his last win, which is kind of a weird thing to say because Refua, since the beginning of his career with every trainer, has been the type of horse that just doesn't want to win. And Joe Sharp took a chance, and I have to say, and I'd mentioned this before, in his last couple of races when he came back to New York, he's looked the best that he ever has, and it's shown on the racetrack too. He won 3 back, came back with a 3rd against tough company, and then got another win last time.
Do you ever think that we'd be saying that he's in good form?
Never. Well, he's always been in good form.
Good, consistent winning form.
16 seconds and 9 thirds. It's just, I don't know. I think
he's turned a corner.
He's really turned a corner.
Now, it bothers me a little bit that Cut the Cord ran so poorly yesterday, and I had made these selections ahead of time, so that is a concern. But I will say, you mentioned the consistency overall. I think this is a horse that he's just shown up. Especially, as you mentioned, for new connections. And he's running some of his faster races overall. If I was going to go with an alternative, I wanted somebody who wasn't necessarily going to be vying for that early lead and who is in that good form right now. So is he good enough? We'll see. But he's certainly surprised me with his ability to get the job done more consistently as of late after that slow start to his career and getting that first victory.
Hats off to the Joe Sharp team. They've gotten him to do something I think many people did not think he would be able to do again. I took a shot with Sagamore Mischief in here. I know he's one that is better being forward, but he's been running fast figures, and they didn't come out of nowhere. He's been able to do that before. He had that win 2 starts back, again, over Breslau, who was very disappointing yesterday. But last time out, I thought when he was pressing, it looked like he was done, and he actually came back and ran on a little bit. JD Factor, the third place finisher, came back to win with an 89 Beyer speed figure, and another horse came out of there to win with an 83. So I think it was a good race that he comes out of, and a horse that I think is coming off of 2 good races.
Yeah, I just wondered with him if he ends up not getting his own way, if he's going to benefit from that extra furlong going the mile in here. But he does draw well towards the outside, and I think that the horse that is likely to be forward as well, Love Me Not, is one that I don't know that I necessarily trust fully. A horse who also has early speed, and I don't know, cutting back a little bit in distance on the dirt at least. I wondered if Sagamore Mischief would be a little bit more forward.
Yeah, I guess that's a good question. We have the replay for Love Me Not, 2 starts back. This is going a mile and 3/16 though, behind Double Your Money, who would come back to win again in there. But then he went back to the turf, and he's actually won on the turf as well. He's been pretty versatile, and he's been running fast figures. It just feels like, and I know he won going 7 at Parks, it feels like he's better going longer and being able to get comfortable on the front end.
I agree, and I think he's better when he's able to establish the early lead as well, and you can see he doesn't end up getting the victory here, but it seems as though, looking at his form overall, he is a horse that benefits from having that forward position. I just didn't think that he would necessarily get it easily in here, but we'll see. Ultimately, there was a Jamie Ness horse that I liked yesterday who was a short price who did no running at all, but each horse is an individual, so we'll see what we get.
One more race on the card, New York Bred Maiden Special Weight, going a mile in the 8th for 3-year-olds and upward. And I think the conversation has to start with Asking for a Friend. We have his 2nd place finish back in August. This was an off-the-turf race. His lone dirt meant start, and I know it was for previous connections, but was by far his most disappointing effort. And I know he ran okay here, but it was such a wet track behind Spirit of the Law, who's also a turf horse.
The whole field is turf horses.
The whole field was turf horses. I remember I was in the paddock for this race, and I said, literally every single horse I'm looking at looks like a turf horse. So could he win? Yes, but he's just going to be such a short price for a horse that I think is more turf.
I don't like this horse at all. Yeah, I think that he's one that is going to be way over bet. I think that his one race is against a turf meant field for sure. There are horses in here that have proven dirt form that's faster than that race regardless. And I thought that he was able to just hug the rail, save all the ground in that spot, and then still be outfinished by another horse there. So while he has been consistent, I just think that this is going to be a tough ask for a horse who's going to be an awfully short price in all likelihood, who is by no means a standout.
No, I think that he will take attention because of connections. And I guess you could say the same for probability. Do you know he is not a first-time gelding? He's a colt still, so that might sway some people one way or another. But a late change coming in, he's not a gelding. But this is a horse that, for that aside, has not run since September of 2024, and now makes his first start for Will Walden. Go back to that September race, and he ran against some horses that at the time did seem quite promising.
And he took money in both of his early starts as well, finishing on a sloppy steel track 5th on debut, and then he ended up being favored in this spot behind Man and Finance and Kenny B. And I thought that he kind of ran in spots in here where he was making a move and then flattened out a little bit and then made this other move, and he ends up being a well-beaten 3rd in this spot. We don't see him for a while with any progressive improvement. I thought that he could be right there with some of these, but for a horse that was also likely to be a short price in here, I would at least go with him over Asking for a Friend, because there is that upside as well as some dirt form against dirt horses.
Yeah, absolutely. He does. And like you said, excuse me, he took attention in both of those starts. I'm going to go back to my man Guilty. I liked him 2 back, so maybe that was the day that he should have been able to get the job done at that big price. But he was so green, so bad first time out, and he took such a huge step forward second time. And then he took far more money in his last race, and he was very disappointed, kind of being up close and chasing and then flattening. But he's massive, this horse. So I like him stretching out. I've been waiting to see him do that. And coming out of that race, he and Poppy's Ticket, I probably was too harsh on Poppy's Ticket, who you ended up on top, and clearly we saw that race a little bit differently. But I wanted to give Guilty another try stretching out.
He does have that big number 2 back, so I completely understand that. And I think that maybe you may make the argument that last time was, or 2 back was the time at that big price in there. But I understand going back for a horse who's not going to be a super short price in here. I just wanted one that maybe had a little bit more upside and room for improvement, though it is a question with Poppy's Ticket how this horse is going to handle the stretch out. There is a lot of sprint on the dam side of this pedigree, though there is maybe a little bit more stamina on the sire side of things, and I like that this one is at least drawn towards the outside, but we'll see. Second off, a little bit of a break for this one, and I thought it was kind of a guessing game. I just did not like asking for a friend.
Yeah, I think that's kind of what this race revolves around.
Yeah,
Do you go with asking for a friend? Sarah, it was a lot of fun as always.
I know. I couldn't even remember the last time that we did Talking Horses
I know.
together.
Sarah was like, I think I was at Belmont.
Yeah.
But
I feel like it has to
we
be-
had to have done Talking
Yeah.
Horses together sometime here.
Probably. It's
Probably.
slipped my mind.
Yeah. It was so memorable.
It was a
Just
wonderful time.
reminder to everybody, you can play along with all the action over at Naira Bets. Sign up, get started, use promo code BONUS200, get your $200 deposit match. Saturday contest coming up as well, $300 buy-in. Register now at nairabets.com/contest up until post time. 10% win bonus if you're playing Aqueduct. Hit a win bet, get a 10% bonus. Opt in at Naira Bets. If you're playing Tampa, you can get a 10% exacta bonus over at Tampa Bay Downs. Opt in at nairabets.com. And finally, America's Day at the races, 12:30 to 4:30. Gonna go grab a snack, head up to the desk, and get ready for it all.
What's the snack of choice?
I ordered Uber Eats, had just arrived. It's very
Ooh.
painful. Like my salad had
that's
just gotten here, and I had
awful.
to come up for Talking Horses,
Wow,
so
you're
it's
so
waiting
brave.
downstairs for me.
No wonder
I
you're
know.
here early.
Yeah, I was
Had
like,
to get
let's get
away.
it done so I can go eat. Yeah. But anyway, Chris Griffin standing by with a reprise of Scratches and Changes. Thanks very much for joining us.
You bet with Naira Bets. Bet any track, anywhere, anytime. Download the Naira Bets app to play today and get a $200 deposit bonus. Watch live horse racing, get expert picks, boost your bankroll with weekly promotions, and hone your handicapping skills with exclusive tips and tutorials. Download the Naira Bets app now. Sign up now to claim your $200 deposit match bonus. You bet with Naira Bets.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to Aqueduct. At this time, we ask that you please rise, remove your caps as we honor America with the playing of the national anthem. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the New York Racing Association and live racing at Aqueduct. A Friday afternoon. Great racing action ahead, where the main track is fast. 8 races on today's card. Horses are headed to the paddock here for race number 1, 27 minutes away. Start of the early pick 5. Track is fast. 8 races, a Friday afternoon right here in New York. And here are today's scratches and changes. In today's first race, start of the early pick 5. Race 1, no changes. No changes in today's first. Race 2, beginning of the early pick 4. No show, trifecta, or superfecta wagering. Scratch the 1, Lost in Rome. Scratch the 5, Barksdale. Scratch the 1 and 5 in race 2. Race 3, start of the pick 6. Race 3, no changes. In today's fourth race, beginning of the late pick 5. Rider change on the 1, make the jockey Raylu Gutierrez. Today's fifth race, post time will be 2:38. Race 5, start of the late pick 4. Jockey change on the 3, make it Jose Gomez. Scratch the 6, Wayward Queen. Scratch the 6 in race 5. Today's sixth race, post time will be 3:08. Race 6 is clear. Race 7, post time, 3:38. Scratch the 7, Skylander. Scratch the 7 in race 7. And race 8, post time will be 4:08. The 5 is a colt. The 5 is a colt in today's 8th. Those are today's scratches and changes. 8 races on this Friday afternoon card. The main track is fast. Race 1 is coming up, start of the early pick 5. Today's first, 1 mile is the distance. Race 1, early pick 5, is coming up next here at Aqueduct. Good luck.
You bet with Naira Bets. Bet any track, anywhere, anytime. Download the Naira Bets app to play today and get a $200 deposit bonus. Watch live horse racing. Get expert picks. Boost your bankroll with weekly promotions and hone your handicapping skills with exclusive tips and tutorials. Download the Naira Bets app now. Sign up now to claim your $200 deposit match bonus. You bet with Naira Bets.